All right, my bows and bow ties. All right, let's see what's going on here. So, hopefully nobody is gonna mess me up. I'm gonna do a quick. Let me see. Can you see what's going on? Oh, the sun is too bright, so you can't see what's going on out there. Anyway, still on vacation. So, I just want to talk about affirmation real quick. Do you know what it means to affirm? What it means is to offer someone, it's like you're going to offer emotional support or encouragement. Sorry, I'm doing this from my iPad, so the camera is like off to the right, so it's hard for me not to look off to the right. Anyway, so I just want to talk about a couple things. Number one, I feel like we need a lot of affirmation in the community, partially because we're not affirmed in society, right? So what happens is we look for a lot of affirmation, and I feel like at this point, we need to get to the point where we learn to affirm ourselves. So for those of you who don't know who I am, I'm the Black Opinionated woman, also known as a B.O.W. And I like to have a whole lot of opinions. Piece of my tongue, I just had a airhead, so I brought some candy with me. Anyway, yeah, I just feel like we don't do enough to affirm ourselves. So what happens is we look in all the wrong places, to get this sense of worthiness. Like we need outside and I would say even inside encouragement. And that's not to say that people in general don't need affirmation, but I feel like the culture, the community, we are definitely in need of some affirmation. Can I say affirmation? It's affirmation. All right, so look, sorry, I'm trying not to put my finger over this camera here. So just have a few points I wanted to make. Oh, why is this like so close? Let's try this. Number one, I feel like I want to go back to the degrees conversation for a second because I think that there's so many black women who find their value in their degrees. Now, what I want to say in terms of this whole degrees thing is this. I believe that degrees are incredibly valuable. They will give you access to spaces and to opportunities. That's not to say that that's the only way to gain access to spaces and opportunities, but that is a mechanism, an avenue. But I don't believe that degrees determine your value. And I say this because I think back in the day we've had plenty of our matriarchs and patriarchs, but matriarchs or whatever, who were deemed to be highly valuable in the community, and they didn't have a degree. Now, and I say this because I think oftentimes people, men and women, a lot of times women, they equate their value. It's like a pecking order. It's like I'm trying to get this to stay up. I can't get my life together. I think they use it as like to establish some sort of hierarchy or pecking order. I mean, and it's human nature to do that. We all do it in some way, shape, or form. I am not excluded from it. You try to do better, but the fact of the matter is, it is a mechanism for how we, I guess, try to establish value. But the fact of the matter is, there have been plenty of people in our community, in our culture. And I say our culture, I'm talking about black culture specifically. I would say black American culture, where we use those things to establish our value. And I don't believe that that is what determines our value. Okay? But what happens is we're looking to our degrees to affirm our status and our womanhood now. And I'm like, I don't think that our education should determine our status. Meaning, let me rephrase that. It should not determine our value. I believe our degrees are incredibly valuable though. They allow us to, to access spaces and that type of thing. Hopefully that makes sense, okay? One of the other things I wanted to talk about in terms of affirmation is that I feel like oftentimes what we're seeing now is that a lot of women will try to take shots at women like, well, at least I got a man, as if that is like the delimiter, delimiter. I can never get that word right. As if like that is the determinant, the value. That's what determines your value is, well, at least I got a man. It doesn't even matter what kind of man you have, right? At least I got one. And I really hate that we try to establish a woman's value in proximity to men. Okay? I believe men and women are valuable in families and in relationships in general, But to sit there and take a shot at a woman to try to cut her down and say things like, well, at least I got a man or something like that is like a way of saying, like, you're not worthy of. I don't like that. We shouldn't be establishing value in proximity to men. Okay? So that's not to say that men aren't great. I happen to be married to one. I just don't like when women try to use that as a way of cutting down another woman. Well, we need to cut that out. I think we have to get to the point where we have to learn to start affirming ourselves. People who live in America who happen to be Caucasian or white or whatever word you want to use, of European descent, they are affirmed daily in the media and where they shop, their images, their positions of power, whatever it is, the way the systems are set up, right? So they are affirmed daily even when they don't realize it, right? They see people like them. They buy band-aids that match their skin. They can purchase toys that match them. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so they are constantly affirmed, where you get encouragement, where, that type of thing. Let me go ahead and read that definition again. I just did a simple Google search, by the way. The second definition that comes up is to offer emotional support or encouragement. So they see images of themselves all the time. They see people in in career fields and all these other things. So they believe that they can do these things. They can achieve these things. And what I'm saying is we're going to have to get to the point as a community where we can learn to affirm ourselves. I think about all these young men who are joining the manosphere groups. It's a little heartbreaking that we've had to resort to this type of I guess they seek the comfort of that community. And there's people who are in the community who have I guess, a large presence. Now, I'm going to be honest. I've done a really good job of cleaning most of my feed from a lot of the manosphere rhetoric, but I really feel bad for a lot of these young men who are following these men. They're being misled. I feel like these men who are in positions of influence are taking advantage of our men out there. These men who are listening, they're hurting, they're confused, they're misguided, right? And it's really difficult when you have to take someone and try to like give them a reason to not follow down a path. And what happens is they're looking to be affirmed by these groups. They're looking to be affirmed by these groups by telling them, like, you're the prize, and this, that, and the other, which is kind of weird that a man wants to be considered the prize. Like, usually the man would typically seek a woman, as like the prize or something like that. So I find that kind of behavior, that language, to be a little problematic, right? It's so weird that men want to be coddled now. Typically, in most cultures and most societies, men tend to be the hunters, the gatherers. And in modern days, it's more like they're the providers, right? You go to work and make money, whatever. Women are capable of performing in those roles too, primarily because they've been forced to perform in those roles. But I just find it so strange, especially in our community, that there's men who are looking to be affirmed by men who really, I don't think, have their best. They don't have their best intentions. I don't think they care about them that much. So anyway, I just find it interesting. It's so funny. Like, my husband, I don't think knows anything about a manosphere, right? He doesn't even have time to engage in the shenanigans. You know why? He's too busy providing and doing certain things and making it so that his family can be on a private island. You know, he doesn't even have the cycles to engage in shenanigans. You know, he's all about, like, as my wife said, or my children say, and make sure I can provide for my family. He doesn't engage in that kind of thing. He thinks it's silly. Like, he doesn't care about that. He's like, these dudes, man, like, he doesn't know anything about that. He doesn't know anything about I guess, the main influencers who are in this particular, I guess, community, in that community. But like I said, you got black women looking to affirm themselves by the proximity to men, by how many degrees they have. They use that as like a way of cutting down women if you don't have a man. Men are looking to this weird manosphere community to affirm them as men. like, it's so weird. Like, there's this push to be alpha. I'm like, you either are or you're not. And I'm like, who says that everyone has to be an alpha male anyway? But everyone wants to be an alpha. I'm like, if you have to join this community to learn how to be an alpha, like, it's really weird. You're not. You either are or you aren't. It's okay. I think the interesting thing about a lot of this too is, what was I gonna say? Firm yourself, blah blah blah. Oh yeah, I just feel like if more men in our community focused on educating themselves, whether it's a degree or a certificate or whatever, and increasing their earning potential. Let me tell you something. The more income you bring in, when you increase your earning potential and all these other things, it gives you access to so many people. I hate saying different caliber of women, but the fact of the matter is you're going to get a different type of person that's going to be your mate. You're going to be exposed to so much more. You're going to have the opportunity to do more. You're going to have a little bit more freedom. You'll have more flexibility, supposedly, usually. I think if they focused more on just increasing their earning potential and salary and that type of thing, they will affirm themselves. That doesn't mean that money determines who you are. I think it shows exactly who you are once you have it, right? Who you really like. But I will say most people, most men and women, but most men, I think for them, they want to be able to, in general, provide for themselves and for their families. And I think when you take that type of thing away from men, it's a horrible thing to take away something that where men take pride in being able to provide for their families, themselves, being good standing in the community and society, right? That's so, it's horrible when a man can't do that. And being that most black men fall on the bottom of the totem pole because they have the least earning potential, the least access, I think, to owning a home. They have the least amount of education. Well, it translates across the board. So what I would say to black men is be ruthlessly focused on educating yourself. And education, I am all for formal education, but that education is beyond formal education too. It's a trade. It's learning just how to invest, even if you don't have a degree. It's so much. It's so much. I think if you become ruthlessly focused on educating yourself, increasing your earning potential and that type of thing, what happens is you don't have the cycles to dedicate to the crazy manosphere stuff. You become exposed to so much more how you want to build your empire. That's what I would suggest is focus on that. That's how you're going to affirm yourself. I think women need to stop determining their value in proximity to men. I think both sexes have value. We are equal, but we're different. We have different strengths. We have different weaknesses. But what happens is we're so busy backbiting and fighting each other, we don't even know how to come together and to push more for a very synergistic effect towards anything. I will say this, getting back to the women, because I am slightly biased, right? I think the women need to stop even entertaining men who are part of that weird manosphere thing. And I say this because these men have found a way to get women to come into these spaces and to continuously try to engage. I wouldn't engage. I would not waste my cycles on something that's worth wasting cycles on. That's not worth wasting cycles on. I think that what happens is there are people who belong to that particular community who are not. I think what happens is they have basically they perform some sort of Jedi mind trick on women. There are women who are out here in these streets acting real goofy because they're confused. You got men who don't know how to get women, which I don't understand because I'm like, dudes, women are not hard to get. If you got a funny personality, you're in. If you make a lot of money, you're in. If you're handsome, you're in. Like a lot of these guys, they're just so duh. There's a lot of women out there who are dying for someone to love them, respect them, not treat them like trash. And I think when both sides can just learn to be more vulnerable and get back to the wooing stage and the dating stage and the laughing stage, instead I feel like both sides are competing with each other. At what point I would look at even some of the men and say, hey, look, we want to lead our community. Okay, look, let's just stop this. I don't want to fight with you anymore. And it's not about winning. Right now, I feel like both sides is in desperate need of affirmation, and right now, I feel like they both sides need to be just ruthlessly focused on themselves, bettering themselves, humbling themselves. That's just where I'm at with it. So look, I know I'm not supposed to go through this whole little thing, but if you haven't had an opportunity to go ahead and subscribe, you should do it right now. Give that thumbs up. It's definitely, so let me tell you something. The algorithm will definitely be like, okay, we people love her. Leaving a comment helps. Watching these videos, it helps. Sharing it out. So go ahead, subscribe, leave a comment. Let me know what your thoughts are. And I'm dead serious about this. Let me know what your thoughts are. All right. My opinionated women.